He took his ex back like nothing happened. Like I didn't exist. Like everything we shared, every laugh, every tear, every dream we built together, meant absolutely nothing. And the worst part? He did it while still texting me goodnight. It all started a few months ago when I met him at a local bookstore in Portland. His name was Tyler. He had this calm, kind smile that made me feel safe right away. He asked me about the book in my hand. I smiled nervously, and from that moment on, we kept finding excuses to meet. We were both a little shy at first. Our first few dates were simple. Walks in the park, sitting in the car, and talking for hours, laughing about nothing. I didn't come from a lot, but with him, I felt like I had everything. We had a soft kind of love, the kind you think will last forever. I cooked for him when he got off long shifts. He surprised me with tiny notes in my bag, and he always made sure I felt heard. He knew I'd been cheated on before, and he swore, he would never do that to me. I believed him. I believed every word. But then one morning, something in my stomach just twisted. You know that feeling? That gut feeling that doesn't make sense at first? I couldn't shake it. Tyler had started being distant. Not too obvious. Just little changes. He stopped calling me baby as often. Stopped staying over after we went out. Claimed he was just tired, or needed to be alone. I didn't want to seem insecure, so I said nothing. I gave him space. Until one day, I saw a comment on one of his Instagram pictures. It was from her. Brittany. His ex. The one he had told me was toxic, the one who broke him, the one he would never go back to. She had commented, "Miss this," with a little heart emoji under a throwback photo of them from a year ago. What shocked me most wasn't the comment. It was the fact that Tyler had liked it. My heart dropped. I waited for him to explain. He didn't. I asked him about it gently, the next time we talked. He brushed it off. She's just being dramatic. I didn't even notice. But he did notice. And I knew he did because 2 weeks later I saw them together. At the same bookstore where we met. Sitting at the cafe corner, heads leaned in like nothing had changed. Like I had never been there at all. He looked up and saw me. I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just turned around and walked away. He didn't chase me. That was the day something in me snapped, but in the calmest way possible. I didn't yell. I didn't call him out. I didn't block him or post quotes about heartbreak. Instead, I made a decision. He thought I would cry. He thought I'd be broken. He thought I would wait for an explanation, cling to the idea of us. But I smiled politely when he texted, "Hey, can we talk?" I responded with, "Sure, someday." He didn't realize it then, but I was already disappearing, piece by piece, thread by thread. I slowly started pulling myself out of his world. I stopped liking his posts. I stopped texting. I became busy when he called. My replies were short, vague, dull. And then one day, I was gone. I didn't block him. I deleted every picture, every message, every trace of him, like we were never real. Like he was the one who never happened. He still tried for a while. He sent me a picture of a flower we saw on our first date. I didn't reply. He sent, "I miss you." I left it on read. That's when the desperation kicked in. He started calling, sometimes at midnight, sometimes 3 times in a row. But I was already rebuilding. And not just emotionally. See, here's what Tyler didn't know. I'd been saving. I was working 2 jobs, my regular one at the clinic and weekend shifts at a local cafe. I didn't talk about it much because I didn't want pity. I was trying to get into a graphic design program in Seattle. And just 2 weeks before he took Brittany back, I got my acceptance letter. I never told him. He didn't deserve to know. So while he was rekindling old flames, I was planning my quiet escape. I moved out of my apartment, shut down all social media, and left behind every trace of the girl he thought would always be waiting. He thought I moved on. He thought I was healing. He thought I was somewhere missing him, watching his stories, maybe hoping for a second chance. Until he tried to visit my apartment and found it empty. No forwarding address. No friends to ask. No clue where I went. I disappeared like we were never real. And that was just the beginning. because what came next was the moment everything shifted. The phone in his hand buzzed. He opened the email, and his eyes went wide as he read the sender's name. It was mine, but it wasn't a message of love. Not an apology. Not a final goodbye. What I sent him turned his whole world upside down. Tyler's hands trembled as he clicked on the email. The subject line read, "Congratulations. You're the inspiration behind my final project." At first, he probably thought it was some cute little poem or thank you note. Something sentimental. Something safe. But it wasn't. It was a professional portfolio link. The page opened to a stunning online art gallery filled with digital illustrations, web animations, and visual stories. The theme? The faces of betrayal. Each art piece told a different story. Stories of women who were ghosted, abandoned, cheated on, lied to, forgotten. And right in the middle of it all was him. Not by name, of course, but by likeness. There was a digital painting titled "The Smile That Lied." It was Tyler's grin, almost perfect. Too perfect. Smug, sweet, and false. Below it was a line in bold letters. He said I was everything, until he made me nothing. There were dozens more. Some were subtle. Others were raw. There was even an animated short showing a woman walking hand in hand with a shadowy figure, only for the man to fade away and reappear holding someone else's hand, leaving the woman behind, watching them walk off into the sunset. And at the very end of the portfolio was a video. That's where the knife went deep. In it I spoke. Just my voice, calm and clear. I used to think closure came from hearing "I'm sorry" or "you meant something to me." But I've learned real closure is becoming someone they'll never have access to again. And doing something beautiful with the pain they gave you. Then the screen faded to black. Tyler must have felt like someone had kicked him in the chest. He called me that night. 6 times. I didn't answer. He emailed, "Why would you do this?" I replied with just one sentence. "You took your ex back like nothing happened, so I gave you nothing." That was the moment he realized this wasn't heartbreak. It was revenge. But not the messy kind. Not the loud, screaming, plate-throwing kind. It was the kind that's quiet, powerful, and permanent. What Tyler didn't know was that my project was already making waves. My instructor had shared it with a few industry friends, and within a week, I got an email from a small creative agency in Seattle. They loved my concept and asked me to come in for an interview. I remember standing in front of the mirror that morning. I looked nothing like the girl who used to cry over unanswered texts. My curls were bigger. My confidence louder. I wore a mustard yellow blazer, a fresh portfolio in my hand, and not an ounce of fear in my chest. The interview went amazing. They offered me a paid internship on the spot. They asked about the inspiration behind my work. I smiled politely and said, "Life experiences. People who taught me what not to accept." I never said his name. He didn't deserve it. A week after that, I signed a lease on a tiny studio apartment near Pike Place. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. The view showed the sun dipping into the water every evening, and that alone made it worth every penny. Meanwhile, back in Portland, Tyler was unraveling. Mutual friends started texting me screenshots. He was leaving sad comments under my old posts, ones I hadn't deleted yet. Things like, "Hope you're doing okay," and "You still mean a lot to me." I didn't respond. One of his friends even messaged me, "Girl, what did you do to him? He's been a wreck." I just sent back a smiley face. I wasn't trying to ruin his life. I was just reminding him that I had won. Without him. The less extreme part of all this was that I still missed him. Not him exactly, but the version I thought he was. The boy with the bookstore smile. The guy who held my hand in grocery store lines and sang off-key in the car. But that version didn't exist. And it hurt to admit it. Still, I was healing. And that healing came in waves. One day I'd feel amazing, unstoppable. The next, I'd hear a song or smell his cologne on a stranger and feel like crying. But I didn't break. Not once. Not when I saw a tagged photo of him and Brittany laughing at some beach party. Not when I found an old hoodie of his in the back of my closet. Not even when I accidentally played a voicemail he left on my birthday last year, telling me I was the best thing that ever happened to him. Because I knew better now. And that was the true revenge peace. I was at peace while he was still searching for something to fill the hole I left. Then came the next extreme event. It happened one morning while I was sipping iced coffee on my apartment balcony, watching seagulls dive into the waves. I got a DM on my new art account. The message said, "We're interested in licensing your project for a mental health campaign about emotional abuse and self-worth. Let's talk." It was from a nonprofit based in New York. I blinked at the screen. Then I laughed. Out loud. Because I realized the pain Tyler gave me had turned into a platform. He thought I disappeared. But I was just becoming someone he couldn't reach. Someone he'd have to watch from a distance as she rose. The message sat on my screen like a light in the dark. "We're interested in licensing your project for a mental health campaign about emotional abuse and self-worth. Let's talk." I reread it at least 5 times. Then I checked the account. It was real. A verified nonprofit organization based in New York, with thousands of followers and countless posts promoting healing, strength, and recovery after toxic relationships. I sat back on my balcony chair, coffee still in my hand, heart pounding. Me. The same girl who once cried quietly on the bathroom floor so no one would hear. The same girl who thought love meant being chosen over and over again, even by someone who had once thrown her away. That girl was now being seen, recognized, valued, for something she built from the ashes of what he broke. The nonprofit wanted to use my visual art story, The Faces of Betrayal, as part of a digital campaign during National Emotional Wellness Month. They loved the rawness, the honesty, the fact that it wasn't just art, but a journey, a soft but powerful declaration that healing is messy but possible. They offered to pay me, not just for licensing but also to speak, virtually just 5 minutes, at a wellness summit attended by counselors, survivors, and artists across the country. I closed my eyes for a moment and just let the breeze hit my face. I wanted to cry, but not from sadness. It was pride. That quiet kind that fills your chest when you realize you didn't just survive something, you transformed through it. I called my mom that afternoon. She had always been my quiet support, even when I didn't talk much. She knew something was off during those last few months with Tyler, but she never pushed. When I told her about the nonprofit and my art project, she didn't say much at first. Then she whispered, "I'm so proud of you. You didn't get bitter, you got better." That stuck with me. That same evening, while organizing my digital files for the licensing agreement, a familiar name popped up in my email again. Tyler. Subject line. "Can we please talk before it's too late?" I stared at it for a long time. It felt so distant now, his words, his presence. Like reading a letter from someone I used to know in another life. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. Because this chapter of my life wasn't about closure anymore. It wasn't about understanding why he did what he did. It was about continuing forward without needing the pieces he never gave me. But fate has a strange sense of humor. 2 days later, I received a package. No return address. I opened it carefully, and inside was a small leather-bound notebook. It was our notebook. The one we used to jot ideas for road trips, movie nights, silly bucket lists. The same notebook I'd asked him about months ago, and he swore he had lost. It had a sticky note on the cover. "I found this. Thought you might still care." He had mailed it. I flipped it open, and inside were the familiar scribbles: buy matching socks, adopt a cat and name it Waffles, drive to Big Sur with no phones. And then a new page, written in recent ink in handwriting I knew too well. "I never stopped loving you. I just didn't know how to be what you deserved. I thought she was what I needed, but you were the piece I kept chasing. I see that now. Please don't shut me out forever. I'm sorry." I closed the book slowly. It was strange. There was a time I would have begged for those words, cried for them, clung to them like they were oxygen. But now they felt like a whisper in a room I had already walked out of. The less extreme part of me, maybe the human part, felt a soft ache. That maybe, just maybe, he did mean some of what we had. Maybe. But that didn't make it right. Or enough. Because the woman I had become was no longer waiting to be validated by someone who once made her feel invisible. The next morning, I sat down in my studio with my tablet. I opened a blank canvas and started to sketch again. This time, the piece wasn't about betrayal. It was about rebirth. A woman standing in the middle of a quiet forest, surrounded by mirrors showing old versions of herself, crying, scared, small. But in the center, she stood tall. Hair in the wind, eyes open, face calm, no longer defined by who left or what they said. I titled it, Unrecognizable to the Ones Who Broke Me. It was the most powerful thing I'd ever made. A week passed, then another. And then came the twist I never saw coming. One rainy Sunday, while browsing through a friend's Instagram story, I saw a video clip. It was a blurry shot of a crowded art gallery in downtown Portland. I almost skipped past it, until I heard someone say, "Wait, isn't that Tyler?" I turned up the volume. The video panned across the room. People were sipping wine, admiring art. And there, clear as day, was Tyler, standing in front of my digital art piece. My betrayal series. Hands in his pockets. Alone. Staring at the painting titled, The Smile That Lied. His face was unreadable. He didn't know the girl who made it was now living hundreds of miles away, speaking at wellness summits, working with nonprofit groups, and finally smiling for real again. He didn't know I'd see the video. He didn't know that at that very moment, I was signing a short-term contract with a mental health campaign that would see my art across schools, digital boards, and social platforms. But I knew something now. I had disappeared from his life so fully that even when I showed up in the same room again, on a wall, in a frame, he couldn't touch me. He couldn't reach me. He couldn't take credit for who I became. That was mine. But just when I thought I was done with surprises, the final extreme moment came crashing in. I opened my email that night and saw a new message. Subject: We'd like to offer you a full-time role as creative director for our campaign. The nonprofit from New York. They were offering me a new life, a new city, a new beginning, far from everything I once knew, and far, far away from the boy who thought I'd wait. I read the email 3 times, then a fourth. Creative director. Full-time. In New York City. The words didn't feel real at first. My heart thudded loud in my chest like it was trying to break out. I got up from my desk, pacing my little studio apartment, gripping my phone like it held the universe in its tiny screen. Me? Just a few months ago, I was shrinking to fit into someone else's world. Now someone was asking me to lead mine. It felt like the world had flipped upside down. In the best way. The position came with a relocation package, full benefits, housing assistance, and a signing bonus that made my hand shake. They said they were moved by my story, my strength, and how I turned personal pain into something powerful, something that could help others find their own voices too. It wasn't just a job. It was redemption. I walked to the window, staring out at the rainy streets of Seattle, and I smiled. I didn't cry. I didn't fall to the floor in disbelief. Because I had worked for this. I had bled for this. I replied to the email with a simple, yes. I would love to accept the offer. Then I called my mom. When she picked up, I could already hear the excitement in her voice, like she knew. I told her everything. The job. The move. The opportunity. She didn't say much at first. Just breathed heavily for a moment. Then she said, God always sees. I'm proud of you. You didn't just survive, baby. You rose. That night, I packed the first box. I folded clothes with care, labeled my notebooks, took down the string lights from my walls one by one. I was leaving. Not just Seattle, but every version of myself that begged someone to love her the way she loved him. Every version that sat by the phone, waiting for a message that never came. Every version that questioned her worth just because someone else didn't see it. Tyler messaged me again the next day. I heard about your gallery showing. You're really doing amazing things. I still think about you. I still miss you. I stared at it. For a second, I almost typed back. Not out of longing. Not because I missed him. But because part of me wanted to say, thank you. Thank you for breaking me just enough to rebuild better. But I didn't send it. I simply deleted the message. No goodbye. No closure. Because disappearing isn't about vanishing in a dramatic cloud of smoke. It's about outgrowing them so completely that the version of you they knew no longer exists. The next few weeks flew by like a dream. The nonprofit flew me out to tour the city, see the office, and meet the team. They were kind, passionate people. Survivors, fighters, artists, therapists, people who got it. People who believed in me. I found a small but beautiful apartment in Brooklyn. Exposed brick walls. Tiny kitchen. Big windows. It was perfect. The day I signed the lease, I took a deep breath and stood in the middle of that empty space. I could almost hear my own heartbeat echoing off the walls. This was mine. No memories here. No ghosts. Just a blank canvas. A few days later, the campaign launched online. My digital art, The Faces of Betrayal, was featured on their homepage, shared by influencers, therapists, survivors, even celebrities. My inbox flooded with messages from people I didn't know. Women telling me they saw themselves in my work. Men apologizing to partners they hurt because my story opened their eyes. Teenagers writing poems for the first time in years. One message stopped me cold. I was going to go back to him. Then I saw your animation. I remembered who I was before he tore me down. Thank you for saving me. I sat there in the dark of my apartment, reading those words, and for the first time, I let myself cry. Not from grief, but from release. All those nights, I thought I was breaking. I was really being rebuilt. Piece by piece. Stroke by stroke. Word by word. And Tyler? Well, I heard through the grapevine he and Brittany didn't last. Apparently, she cheated on him. Twice. He tried reaching out again. A long email, saying he saw the campaign, and he realized how badly he had hurt me. How he would do anything to go back. How he was proud of me. I didn't reply, because he was no longer part of this chapter. This chapter was about me. A woman who turned heartbreak into healing. Revenge into rebirth. Silence into a voice that reached thousands. I never expected my revenge to be so quiet. So kind. But that's what made it so powerful. I didn't have to scream. I didn't have to curse him out or post screenshots or burn his hoodie in a dramatic fire. I just left. And I became someone he could never reach again. Someone so far beyond the girl who once waited for his love that I was unrecognizable. So if you're reading this, and you've ever been the one left behind, the one forgotten, the one replaced, hear me now. Your healing will be the loudest thing they never see coming. And when you rise, don't look back. Because one day, they'll find themselves standing in front of a picture of you, real or imagined, and realize they let a masterpiece walk away. And you'll already be halfway across the world, smiling, unreachable, unapologetic, and completely finally free.